I've used up all of my creativity for my last artwork. Now that one is done, I want to move on to the next piece. I end up staring at a blank page in my sketchbook, head empty. Now what? So I may be experiencing some art block. However, I've noticed a trend that I tend to follow when I'm in this situation, and I think that may be the key to working around art block. So I'm gonna go do that. Well, I don't know what I want to draw next, but I know I want to draw something. I find that I default to one or two subjects, skulls or flowers, sometimes both, and today it's going to be both. Sure, maybe I've drawn these things a million times before, but I think that's actually a part of the reason why this works so well. I'm familiar with what I'm drawing. I'm not trying to draw something super complicated or something brand new to me. It's something that I've done over and over and over and over, and that gives me freedom in other ways. If I so choose, that is. For this particular drawing, I'm using that freedom to work on composition and how to best separate the subjects from each other. But if I don't want to focus on anything at all, I can mindlessly doodle until I figure out what I want to work on next. The main thing is getting myself to draw, and this takes out all of the stress of figuring out the specifics. Once the sketches were completed, I took pictures and composed them together onto one page. I also did some digital line work to get an idea of my line weights, and then took it to my trusty Lightbox to transfer it onto my watercolour paper. I also added another flower to fill in the corner. Something I've been working on a lot lately is line work, so it's nice to feel less stress at this stage. Figuring out this default subject was something that happened quite naturally for me. I found myself constantly coming back to them, and I enjoy drawing them. I think that enjoyment is quite important too. I decided to use watercolour for this piece. I love this set, but I've been too precious about it to actually use it. I am focusing on building up the tones on the skulls, slowly layering up to the darkest points. I chose darker coloured flowers to contrast the light coloured skulls, and used the leaves and stems to have movement throughout the individual images to guide the eye from one side to the other. As well as the enjoyment from drawing these subjects, I can use them to work on improving other areas of my art. As I don't need to worry about the form so much, I can focus on painting with watercolour, as I tend to use gouache, and working with colour, as I prefer to work in black and grey. I kept the colour palette very simple, just working in muted tones. That allowed me to work on how to build up my value while using colour. When coming up with the sketches, my idea was to have the flowers very dark. As I was painting, however, I liked the idea of having more of that colour come through. I think the thing I struggled with most with using the watercolour was how to mix the colours together. When using gouache, because the paint is in tubes, I can mix on my palette to reach my desired colour before applying it to my painting. As the set is in pans, I layered my colours over each other to find my mixes. This was much harder to judge. Is it normal to mix in the pans? I don't really like the idea of doing that though, because I don't want to muddy up my colours for my next piece. Overall, I'm happy with the final painting. I really think the best way to get over art block is to just draw through it. It seems counterintuitive and it can be difficult to get going with, but once that added stress of choosing what to draw is removed, it is so much easier to start. Doing this piece has felt like a refresh, and I feel ready to move on to something new. But what to draw? Maybe a skull? Maybe flowers? Or maybe both.